Imagine telling someone in 1990 that BMW would one day build a luxury coupe with more than 600 horsepower, a twin-turbo V8, intelligent all-wheel drive, and the ability to turn into a rear-wheel drive monster at the push of a button. They might have thought you were describing a future supercar. They certainly would not have expected a massive German Grand Tourer. But the story of the BMW M8 begins much earlier than the car most people know today. It begins with a secret prototype, a huge V12, and an idea BMW was not ready to sell. In the early 1990s, BMW engineers took the E31 8 Series and created something extreme. The original M8 prototype featured a 6.0-liter V12 and was reported to produce around 640 horsepower. It was wider, lighter, more aggressive, and far more focused than the regular 8 Series. The engine itself was closely related to BMW's racing technology, and the prototype was built to explore what the 8 Series could become if BMW removed almost every limitation. But then the project disappeared. BMW never put the M8 into production, and for years the name existed almost like automotive mythology. Enthusiasts knew the car had existed, but almost nobody had ever seen it. The prototype remained hidden for decades until BMW finally showed it to the public in 2010. And then something unexpected happened. The M8 name came back. Nearly 30 years after the original project, BMW decided that the 8 Series deserved another chance to wear the most important letter in the company. In 2019, the BMW M8 arrived, and the F92 Coupe became the production version of an idea that had been waiting since the 1990s. But this time BMW had completely different technology to work with. Under the hood was a 4.4-liter twin-turbocharged V8. In the M8 competition, it produced 625 horsepower and 750 Nm of torque. Those numbers alone were impressive, but BMW knew that simply putting a powerful engine inside a large luxury coupe was not enough. The M8 had to feel like a genuine M car. Engineers heavily reworked the chassis, cooling, lubrication, suspension, brakes, steering, and drivetrain. The car was tested in serious high-performance environments, including the Nürburgring, because BMW wanted the M8 to be more than a straight-line missile. It had to handle corners too. And then came one of the biggest changes to traditional BMW M philosophy, xDrive. For decades, enthusiasts had associated M cars with rear-wheel drive. But the M8 had so much torque that BMW wanted additional traction without destroying the car's character. So the M8 received an intelligent all-wheel drive system that could behave in several different ways. In normal 4WD mode, it delivered maximum traction. In 4WD Sport, it became more rear-biased. And when the driver wanted the old-school experience, 2WD mode could send power only to the rear wheels. That meant the M8 could be a secure high-speed GT one moment and a tire-smoking rear-drive machine the next. In competition form, it could accelerate from 0 to 100 km per hour in roughly 3.2 seconds. Think about what that means. This was not a lightweight sports car. It was a large luxury coupe filled with leather, technology, sound insulation, comfort systems, and enough equipment to cross a country. Yet when the accelerator went down, the entire personality changed. The V8 came alive, the turbos built boost, the transmission dropped gears, and the xDrive system searched for grip. Suddenly the car moved with the urgency of something much smaller and much more exotic. And that dual personality became the M8's greatest strength. It could be quiet and comfortable in the city. It could cruise for hours on the highway. But with a few changes to its settings, the same car could become extremely aggressive. BMW allowed the driver to customize the engine, transmission, steering, suspension, brakes, and drivetrain behavior. Instead of giving the M8 one personality, BMW effectively gave it several. That was especially important because the M8 was never designed to replace a normal sports car. It was too large for that. It was not supposed to be the lightest or purest BMW M product. It was supposed to be something else, a Super GT. A car that could combine long-distance luxury with supercar performance. And the M8 was developed during an important period in BMW's history. Around the same time, BMW was also creating the M8 GTE racing car. The competition version entered major endurance races, including the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and later achieved a major class victory at the 24 Hours of Daytona. The road-going M8 was obviously not a street-legal race car, but the connection mattered. The M8 name had returned to motorsport as well as the road, and BMW used racing experience to help develop the character of the production car. That made the F92 even more interesting because it was not simply an expensive version of the regular 8 Series. It was the flagship expression of BMW M's engineering philosophy. Even the body told that story. Compared with the standard 8 series, the M8 received a far more aggressive front end, wider-looking proportions, larger wheels, more pronounced aerodynamic elements, and the unmistakable quad exhaust outlets. But BMW never tried to make the M8 look like a race car with license plates. The design remained elegant. That restraint was important. The M8 did not need to scream about its performance. It could look like a sophisticated grand tourer and still hide a machine capable of embarrassing sports cars. That contrast was part of the appeal. But perhaps the biggest reason the M8 matters is timing. The car arrived just as the automotive industry was beginning to leave the world that created it. Large combustion engines were becoming harder to justify. Emissions regulations were tightening. Electrification was accelerating. Naturally aspirated V10s had already disappeared. High-performance V8s were becoming increasingly rare. And BMW chose that moment to build a 625-horsepower twin-turbo V8 coupe. It was not necessary. It was not efficient. It was not particularly rational. But that was never the point. The M8 existed because BMW wanted to push the 8 Series as far as possible. That is why the car feels so excessive. It is long, wide, heavy, luxurious, incredibly powerful, and packed with technology. Yet it can still change direction with surprising confidence and deliver acceleration that would have seemed impossible for a luxury GT only a generation earlier. The M8 is essentially a machine built around contradictions. It is too luxurious to be a traditional M car, yet too aggressive to be a normal GT. It is too large to be a classic sports car, yet too fast to behave like an ordinary grand tourer. And somehow, that contradiction is exactly what makes it special. A lightweight sports car removes everything that does not help performance. The M8 does the opposite. It keeps the comfort, the technology, the size, and the luxury, and then adds enormous power on top. It does not ask the owner to choose between speed and comfort. It tries to provide both. You can drive it across an entire country, arrive feeling fresh, and then find a mountain road and discover that the car has another personality waiting underneath the surface. That is why the M8 feels different from so many other performance cars. It does not constantly remind you that it is dangerous. It hides the capability. The cabin can be calm. The ride can be comfortable. The car can feel almost effortless. Then you press the accelerator and remember that there is a 625 horsepower V8 sitting under the hood. And perhaps that is the most fascinating connection between the modern M8 and the forgotten E31 prototype. The first M8 represented what BMW engineers wanted to build if nobody stopped them. The F92 represented what modern technology finally allowed them to build for the public. One had a massive naturally aspirated V12. The other had a twin-turbo V8. One remained a secret prototype. The other became a production car. But the philosophy was almost identical: take BMW's flagship coupe and push it beyond what seems reasonable. That story gives the F92 more significance than its performance figures alone suggest. The M8 arrived at the meeting point between two automotive eras. Behind it was the old world of large engines, mechanical character, and obsessive chassis development. Ahead of it was the era of electrification, software, and performance increasingly defined by algorithms and instant electric torque. The M8 sits directly between those worlds. It has an incredibly complex electronic brain, but at its center is still a large internal combustion V8. It can be controlled by software, but the experience is still built around combustion, boost, gears, sound, heat, and mechanical movement. And that may eventually become the reason enthusiasts remember it. Future cars will almost certainly be faster. Some will accelerate more violently. Some will be lighter, more efficient, and technologically superior. But speed eventually becomes just a number. What becomes difficult to reproduce is the personality of the machine delivering that speed. The M8 has personality. It has the sound of a V8. It has the long hood, the low roof, the 4 exhaust pipes, the massive torque, and the strange feeling of sitting inside a luxury coupe that can suddenly behave like a supercar. It is not the simplest BMW M car. It is not the lightest. It is not the most practical. But it may be one of the clearest examples of BMW refusing to compromise. Almost 30 years after the original secret M8 disappeared, the name finally returned to the road. And when BMW finally built it, the company did not make it small or sensible. It made it excessive. A 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8. 625 horsepower. 750 Nm. xDrive. Rear-wheel drive capability. Serious brakes. Serious chassis engineering. And enough luxury to cross continents in silence. The BMW M8 F92 was never a car the world needed. It was a car BMW wanted to build. And sometimes, those are the cars people remember the longest.